Hi everyone, it's Cathy Zielske back with another installment of Easy with me, CZ. Today I'm going to create a pretty stenciled panel, top it with a fun greeting, and hopefully cuteness will ensue. To see my card project come together, stick around, it's coming up next. So here's a look at the products I'll be using today, and I'm going to use, I'll show you the back because it's easier to see. This is the Groovy Blooms Layering Stencils, and I think this is such a simple, fun, happy little design. You have 3 layers, the centers, the leaves, and the blooms themselves. And I've got a fun little hack for isolating some of these that I'm excited to share with you. I've got my CZ Design Happy Combos because I think I don't know if I'll make a birthday card, I'm not sure yet, but I've also got a few inks that I'm going to use to blend on my blooms. So let's get set up for some ink blending. I've got a piece of Nina Classic Crest in the Solar White. This is 4.5 by 6. It's larger than I need because I'm going to be trimming this down. And I have my Waffle Flower Grip Mat. This is a 6.5 by 8.5 sticky surface, little photopolymer surface, and it's going to help hold things in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my stencil right about here. The nice thing about this is that it is going to hold to the grip mat here on the sides, okay? So that's not going anywhere. And I can start blending. But what I did was I brought another piece of cardstock. This is just some 80 pound, and I don't really know what that is. And I cut a circle out of it that is the same size as that friend. And so when I want to go and isolate this, all I have to do is move my circle, and then I can also hold it in place with the grip mat. So that's how I'm going to lay down for the first bloom, and I'm going to use bubblegum, and then I can use this piece when I start to move into the other ones. So I've got my Simon Says Stamp blending brushes, and how I get my brushes ready for blending is I just blend or wipe off whatever was on before on a paper towel roll until they mostly look relatively clean, and then I'm ready to blend. So I'll do that off camera with each brush as I bring it in. And I'm going to go ahead and start blending. So again, I'm just going to hold this in place, load up my brush, tap a little off just to really get it into the bristles, and go ahead and bring this in. Now, if you had something like a masking material, like a masking magic or the Simon masking paper, that would also be great for this because then you don't have to worry that this little friend is going to come up at all, right? So simple. Add that on and move down to the next one. Now, even though I know I'm going to be cropping, bump you up there, I still like to get the whole piece done at once, and then I have choices for trimming it down. And just like that, I have all 3 isolated. Now I can move on to the next color. I'm going to bring in Simon Says Stamp Butter, and let's get our brush primed. I'm going to load up my brush here, and I'm going to cover this and blend on some butter. Now here you can really mix and match if you want to have a bunch of different colored flowers. I don't. I want to keep it very simple. Let's come down here. Here I might have to just bring in a little extra, but see, you can just use cardstock. It's easy to use. Just kind of spread your fingers apart there and get that color in there. All right. So the first layer is done, and when I reveal, you will see the base of the blooms. I clean off my stencil between each, well, I just clean it off when I'm done with garden variety rubbing alcohol that you get at the drugstore. take a cloth, paper towel, whatever you have, wipe it off. The nice thing is it dries immediately and it gets all the color off the stencil. Next, I'm placing down the centers. And this is really easy to line up because you just look at each one of these large ones and you're pretty much good to go. Now for this, you may have to do some masking, you may not. I'm probably not going to do much, but I am going to bring in this darker pink. This is called Sweets. And my centers are going to be darker, but I'm also going to make sure that I tap off. And here I'm just using the same brush because I'm going with a darker shade. And just to be sure, I might do that, and we'll bring it in. Like that. And I'm really just trying to keep it nice and deep and dark. I'm not too worried about fancy shading because these inks dry back so beautifully and they look so smooth. So I'm really just going for a lovely pop of color. Okay. And again, just using my cardstocks here to help mask. It's a little awkward there, but I'll get it. Here we go. Okay. And the last, and actually you could even do it like that. I don't know what I was thinking. You can use your circle as well. All right. Those look great. Okay. And I'm going to wipe a little of this stencil off with my cloth just so I don't bring any of that hot pink in. I mean, it wouldn't really matter, but if I'm trying to isolate colors, this is kind of a good way to do it. And now I'm going to bring in my Peachy because I just want to have some orange centers, and these colors sit nicely next to each other on the color wheel, right? Roy G. Biv. I think though, do I want to have a smaller brush? Yeah, I'm going to bring in one of my smaller blending brushes, and that way probably be a little easier, but we'll see. Get you loaded up. Really work it into the bristles. Okay, and let's do that here, and we'll bring in this orange and in here too. So just working my way around, filling the centers with the orange. So you can see how quickly this can come together. And if you wanted to change the center colors, you could as well. So we'll lift this up, and then we will have the centers in our flowers. And now I'll move on to the greens. I've got the last stencil in place, and I'm going to use a nice, happy, bright green. This is Celery. And we'll just bring this in. And this requires no masking. We're just blending over the greenery. Working my way up. And finishing it up. Now, of course, you could get fancier with this. You could add shading and all of that to the leaves and whatnot, but I just want a very graphic print, and here is the piece. Okay, here we go. And that is just a happy, pretty panel for my card. So I'm gonna let this ink all smooth out, and we'll move on to stamping our greeting. For my greeting, I've got another piece of cardstock here. This is the same Nina Classic Crest in the Solar White in the 110. And I'm going to stamp the word happy, and I'm going to stamp it in the bubblegum. So I want this to be my lighter color, and we're going to ink this up really well. Okay. Let's transfer the color like that and give it another. But I'm going to let this dry completely because what I'm going to do is stamp over this word, which was part of the idea behind designing this set. I like the idea that you can have little words reading in, and then you can stamp over the top various other words that complete the phrases. And so for this card, I think I'm going to make one that says, sending all the happy, and I'm going to stamp your way in black right over this. So I'm going to let this dry before I position your way and stamp. So here I'm just going to place my little your way right over. Looks pretty good. All right. I'm going to test it. I'm just going to take a little piece of acetate. I'm going to ink this up just with a little tiny cube. This is some Gina K Designs black onyx, which is really nice for just small greetings. And let's see how that looks. I think that's going to be really nice and straight. So wipe this off. Okay. I will stamp this on a couple times. I'm not going to smush it because it's a very delicate greeting. So we'll just go drop, press, light. Oh, that looks really good though. One more. Again, just a light drop of the Misty Door and tap. And that looks great. So now I can die cut this. I'll go ahead and pop this die. It's very easy to frame out. It has a nice, generous outline. And then I'll run this through my die cut machine. And now I have my little greeting cut out. And I'll go ahead and cut out at least one more, maybe two more, just to build up some dimension. I'm going to use a little liquid glue here. This is Connect Glue from Gina K, and I will pop this right onto these die cut layers, and we can glue them together just for that little extra added dimension. Pop that on and repeat. And now this is going to have some nice dimension. I need to do one more little stamped piece, and that is going to be the little sending all the, because the greeting will say sending all the happy your way. So I have a little piece of Simon Says Stamp black cardstock. I'm going to gently drop this down so I don't bend it funny. There, it doesn't really matter which way it goes. Just don't stick to my fingers. There we go. And we're going to pick it up. And I'm going to get my Simon Says Stamp anti-static powder tool because I want to put a decent amount on here just so that wherever I stamp my embossing ink, it's going to be good to go. Just going to rub my finger over that a little because I have not used this yet. In fact, you know what? I have a little Altenew eraser. It's not an eraser, it's like a primer. And it actually is pretty cool. All right. Let's just take the littlest amount of our clear embossing ink. Tap, 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 tap. And then I'm just going to drop it and tap because you don't want to smush it. That looks perfect. And I have my Simon Says Stamp Fine Detail White. Oh yeah, that's going to look great. And just pour this on. And that is ready for heat embossing. I went ahead and melted that powder, and now I'm ready to cut this out using one of my Simon Says Stamp sentiment label dies. But one of the things you'll notice on dark cardstock sometimes is the anti-static powder might still show. Using your fingers at this point is a great way to get it to come off because it kind of adds the oil back in, and now it's ready to be die cut. So all I have to do is just line this up, and I can go ahead and run that through my die cut machine. So the next thing I have to do, and I put some thin foam squares on this to have a little more dimension, and also cut a thin foam square in half for this. But I realized it's like, this is the way I blended it, but I feel like if I flipped it, then I can actually get more of those big flowers. And so that's what I want to do. So when you have a panel that has sort of an equal pattern all the way around, don't be afraid to like flip it and see what else, you know, how else you can play with it. Now I'm going to take a panel die, and I think, let me see here. Nope, that's too small. I want to see more of this pattern, but the reason I like to crop with dies is because then you can really plan out your card really well. And here, what I can do is make sure, and here this can come over. Actually, this could go right in the center. It doesn't have to be down there. Here, you can just kind of visualize how your crop is going to look. And that's one of my favorite things to do in card making, is to figure out what is the crop. I think I am going to center this because I think, although I would like this to be maybe a little more like that. I want to see at least 3 flowers, but I was kind of hoping to see more. So if I do that and come up like this, I think that crop is really cute, and I can adjust everything later. So I will hold this down, I will tape this into place, and I'll go ahead and run this through my die cut machine. All right, the crop is going to be so nice, so I'll pop this out. And even though this is, now here's the thing, is this an easy card? Well, I break down the steps and hopefully it will seem easy so that you can see a card like this and say like, oh, that's how they did that. They did it that way. They being me. But I think I want to add a little bit of black spatter onto this card. So let me grab my little splat box real quick. So even though it might not seem like, and I have to do it, it's a little shadowy in here. I like to do a little bit of splatter or spatter. You can call it what you like, but I like to do it because it's going to be a nice way to tie in a little of the black. So all I'm going to do is just smush down a little of this black ink cube. I'm going to wet it. I'm going to pick it up with a brush, and actually I think this is going to need a little more water. Okay, and test a little here and just put a few on in sort of a diagonal. Not a lot, just a little. It just adds a little something something. It's so basic, and that is all I'm going to add. All right, moving on. I thought a black note card would be so perfect for this. So I'm going to score this right at 5.5. And this will be a top folding USA2 card. Okay. And this is the Simon Says Stamp black cardstock. So there'll be a nice little matchy match aspect going on. And we'll press that down. I have Simon Says Stamp Big Mama foam tape here on the back. Release the backers. That. And we'll pop this down onto the note card. Oh, I love how the black just makes everything pop. And now all I have to do is figure out the placement of happy, and then I can add my subgreeting. Now on this one here, I will add a little liquid glue onto the foam squares just so they have that little bit of float time. Let's grab our tweezers and just for a little wiggle room. And then we're going to place you right in the center of the card, popping right up into the flower a little bit. Like that. Over a little more. Trying to get it equal from side to side. Right there, actually. I want it to be a little more up into the flower. And that's why that liquid glue is so nice, because it gives you a second so you can actually do a little wiggling so that you know you're in the right place. And I can always bring in my little T-square too. Just hold it there and make sure, yeah, that's good. So press. And now we'll do the same here. Take the backers off so we can position this just above the larger greeting. Okay, and it will be sending all the happy. I could do it off to the side like that, but I think I like it right in the center, like that. Yep, I like that. Sending all the happy your way. So you can see how just that little bit of spatter really brings the card together. And that's the finished card project. I'm not going to put any shiny things on it. I love that it's ink blended and stamped, and the inks all coordinate together so beautifully. So I hope this inspires you to check out the layering stencil and this stamp set as well if you're interested in making this card for yourself. You can find links to all of the products I used in today's video in the YouTube description box. If you're not a subscriber to the Simon channel, we'd love to have you, so subscribe today and be sure to hit that like button.
Hi there, I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at simonsaysstamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.